I'm going to give a little bit of a mini lecture, and I'll do some readings, and I think I'm going to have to break up the readings just so the time limit isn't too long for the program I'm using to handle. So guys, this is kind of like a journal wrapped up with a discussion, and we'll be doing this a lot where you're able to post your own thoughts and then reply to somebody else's response. So this is assignment 2 for today. My kids are screaming, sorry. Assignment 1 is simply watching this video, okay? So for assignment 2, discussion number 1, 320, we've been talking a lot about things like the Marshall Plan and containment, and today we're really going to look at how those two ideas come together. And so to get started on that, I want you to think about the present day and what type of language and ideas the United States uses to talk about itself. Okay, so you could think about right now during the crisis that we're having, or you could think about any time in the last 10 years or so, okay? So you're going to post your answer in the discussion, and then later on you're going to have to check back in and comment on somebody else's post as well, okay? So go ahead, you could pause the video now and go and do that and come back to this later, okay? So that's this, in case you didn't find it, discussion 320, it's number 2 for today, okay? So like I said, we've been talking about the Marshall Plan, and we've talking about this idea of containment, right? And today we're really going to look at how those two come together with something called the Truman Doctrine, okay? And so this is really how the United States implements containment, okay? It's how they put this idea of keeping Russia in Russia, of keeping communism in communist Russia, and how they can keep the West democratic, okay? And containment and the Marshall Plan really come together under this idea of the Truman Doctrine, okay? So the Truman Doctrine, we're going to read a part of his President Truman's address to a joint session of Congress. This is when he introduces the plan. And his goal in this speech, the one that we're reading today, is specifically about Greece and Turkey. Greece and Turkey are both in the Eastern Mediterranean. They're close to communist Russia, to the USSR, and as well to the Middle East. So it's a very important region for the United States and for Europe. And so Truman really wants to do everything he can to stop communism from spreading to these countries, both of whom at this time are in economic ruins, okay? And so Truman calls for economic aid and he calls for military aid. So we're going to read that in just a minute. But I also want to show you the other piece of information, the other reading that we're going to be looking at, and that's from the Soviet point of view, okay? And so we're going to be reading a speech. It's a direct response to President Truman, to the Truman speech that we're reading today. And this is given by a Leningrad Communist Party boss, Andrei Zhadanov, okay? And this is given at an international communist organization meeting, okay? Or a conference. So he's sharing his response to the Truman Doctrine with like a worldwide audience. Okay. What you need to do is you need to open up number 3 here, the Truman Doctrine and the Soviet Response. Okay, and this is the main assignment for today. This assignment contains a reading or 2 readings and a couple things that you actually have to do. So you are watching this video. I'll put other videos up with the actual readings, with me reading them. And then you need to open this link here, the Truman Doctrine and the Soviet Response, okay? You need to make a copy of the file. So click File, Make a Copy, and rename it. Rename it Sean, the Truman Doctrine, and the Soviet Response, okay? So follow the directions in that document, and you need to submit it into Echo, okay? So you need to use the Dropbox in Echo. I can't get so many emails with these assignments. It's going to be really hard for me to keep track of them. So the directions, as you read, you're